Our next talk is about smart government and open data, and the speaker is the co-founder and managing director of Exantium, Ibrahim Badawi.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So interesting summit. We discussed various topics of within the domain of digital media and mobile. And in the coming few minutes, I will discuss another area. But I would like to start with a quick survey, let's say, a quick poll. I would like, if you can raise your hand, if you heard of the topic or subject of open data, if you ever heard of it. OK, that's like 50%. Has anyone done any work in open data? Like analyzed open data or published open data? OK. So it is an interesting topic, and it's more interesting because we are in a summit about digital, about startups, and it's an emerging domain in the region here. So it's good to have a discussion around it. In the UAE alone, in the past 12 months, we have witnessed the announcement of smart government initiatives and then the smart city initiatives in Dubai also. And the immediate output, the direct objective of smart government initiative is to have the public services provided widely accessible to the public, to the citizens, residents, and visitors on smart devices. While smart city is a much wider concept. Here, the city, in managing the city, will not rely only on the physical infrastructure, but will tap into the knowledge, digital communication, and the social aspect of it. So very interesting initiatives that is an extension to the long journey of using technology in public sector in UAE. Now, the question here is that I would like to discuss and highlight is how can startups help? How can entrepreneurs, like many of us in the room here in the summit, help in achieving this ambitious vision of the country here? Let me provide some insight with some practical examples. This app, City Mapper, which is very popular in cities like London and other cities in Europe, and even New York. Very useful app for those who use it. Provides you with direction, insights on how to move around in these cities using various public transportation methods or even by walking. Now, how the developers develop this app? Mainly, they use the data released by the transportation authorities in these cities and design algorithms around them and come up with the app. So although it's an app for the public service, it's not issued by a government body. It's issued by a startup or a private company, but used widely by the public using the government data. How is this approach different than the traditional approach of releasing online application or mobile application for government services? The difference here is that the government agency itself does not design the solution. So throughout the e-government era, let's say, usually government agency define the problem, design the solution, and then asks developers to come and develop application based on this solution. While here, the government agency only shares the data. Share it openly. Openly means that developers and everyone can access it without restriction, without having to pay fees, without any technical or legal restrictions. So here, the transportation department does not ask for a solution for a specific problems, doesn't define solution. They just release the data. And then they tap and rely on the innovative skills of millions of people outside the government department to come up with new ideas for new applications that will make people's life much easier. Another good example from a different area, also from London, the National Health Services. A small startup in London incubated at the Open Data Institute, which is a partner for us, for Exantium, tried to do some work around the data released by the National Health Services. The Health Service Department released a huge amount of data over the past few months. So they said, there might be something in this data. Let's play around it. So they conducted analytics exercise over 6 weeks using a seed fund. And then they found interesting issues around how prescriptions of certain medicine, the medicines that's used to decrease the cholesterol level, is used. According to the NHS policies, there are two types of medicines here, the branded one and the generic ones. The branded is much more expensive than generic one, and that's why it should be prescribed according to certain conditions. But when the data analysts in this startup analyzed the data, 35 million records of data, and compared to the guidelines of NHS, they discovered many cases that the branded drug shouldn't be prescribed. And thus, as a result, the NHS have the potential to save 200 million pounds every year. Think of it, one medicine for one certain of treatment analyzed in 6 weeks and resulted in this potential, 200 million pounds. And of course, the value is not only saving the money, but the value that while keeping an eye on this issue, you can redirect these resources to other areas that can generate more value to the wide public of residents. In London also, the Smart London Plan identified open data as a key pillar in the plan. We heard today, this morning, in the opening speech, that's in London, most of the apps are not released by the government. And that's true, because the government releases the data only. And then developers, entrepreneurs, try to find solutions, try to find innovative ideas to release these new apps. So you can think of one official app for the taxi, but then dozens of other apps released by entrepreneurs. Outside there, here in the exhibition, we can see very nice ideas. Think of these ideas applied to the government services. So this is the key approach here. Releasing data openly, without restriction, and then enabling the entrepreneurs, the developers, to find solutions on how to make these services, public services, better. Now, in UAE and in the region, many government departments decided to tap into this area, open data, and today there are many activities or small initiatives around open data. In UAE alone, there are many government websites that share data publicly with the audience, and I had the pleasure to be part of the team when I used to work for the e-government team itself. But it's an emerging domain here in the region. Now, I would like to share with you like 3 principles. I think it's important if you want to have successful partnership between governments and innovators outside the government bodies like startups, entrepreneurs, researchers, university students. The first one is that we need to remember it's a new digital age. So the journey of e-government over the past 2 decades, we have learned a lot of this journey. But one thing we learned today that the principles of e-government, of doing or applying technology in government, might not be applicable in today's digital world. And the key assumption that I would like to highlight here is that the government department does not have to do all the work, does not have to have all the answer for all the problems. By sharing data with others, we enable collaborations between government side and also entrepreneurs and developers. Many of us, or maybe all of us, follow the news of tragedy of MH370, the Malaysian flight. Besides the government efforts to search for the flight, one company in the US, the Digital Globe, decided to follow a different approach. It's a company known for its services in providing digital satellite image and analyzing it. So they decided to crowdsource this task. Instead of keeping the task of analyzing this image to their handful, a team of analysts, they published the image on the website. And by the way, this is done by a startup called Tomnot. They acquired it. So the photos of the satellite, of the search area, is published on the website, and they enabled everyone to look into these photos and try to find any clues on where the plane is. So the point is that this company got the idea that in today's world, it's not necessarily that we do the work. No, we can enable others by sharing some of the data we have with them, enable them to help us in finding solutions. And that's why international bodies like the United Nations, World Economic Forum, started designing new models of doing or applying technology in government that is suitable for the digital age. And across all these models, there is a common theme, the theme of sharing data and enabling others, citizens, developers, researchers, to help the government find better solutions. The second thing is to open or to build an open data community, which is not yet very, let's say, well-defined in the region here. We have many government bodies that are interested in the topic. We have a few people who are active in it, but still we don't have a community as compared to other countries. And this is important because when you release open data, when you release data with others, there are many parties who are interested in it. Think of investor, people who would like to come to the country to open up businesses. They need data about the country economy, data about how to do business, etc. So developers, investors, academia people, etc. They are all interested in this data. So once you release the data, useful data, you can attract those people to come and work together. We talked about the NHS thing in London. Actually, this task was, the exercise itself began at one hackathon, NHS Hack Day, that's usually conducted over the weekend. So people interested in the health service and the healthcare domain, developers, come together and discuss how to improve the domain using technology, using data. Another example on how to build up community from the US, this is data.gov, a leading international portal that offers over 100,000 datasets from US wide government agencies. And in the site itself, you can find a tab called Impact. So Impact, if you check it, you will see a list of companies, private sector companies and startups that use the data to create value to the public. I would like to run a short video here showing how the US government, the White House, work on building this community. Can you run the video now?
Last June, 16 app developers were invited to the White House for a gathering called Champions of Change. The Obama administration wanted to demonstrate the potential of web apps powered by data published by federal, state, and local agencies. The developers were honored at a special ceremony featuring National CTO Anish Chopra and other administration officials. The occasion served as a platform for the White House to promote its open data agenda, which included a presentation of upgrades to data.gov. After the ceremony, the champions got to present their apps to Chopra one-on-one and trade ideas with him. For example, developer Jill Seaman created Mom Maps, an app guiding parents to child-friendly locations in cities. Mom Maps uses a combination of government data and information contributed by users.
It speaks to things that are relevant to parents, like safety and cleanliness, and even to things like aggressive squirrels and the like, that many non-parents would not notice.
Sportaneous enables New Yorkers to find and organize pickup games at public facilities. Developers Aaron Royston and Omar Haroon see the project as benefiting both their company and the city.
We have a team now of 3 engineers and 3 business people who are basically working day and night to make this a profitable business, but in the meantime actually improving the city.
Richmond's Sunlight offers citizens an easy way to track bills in the Virginia General Assembly. Users get quick access to minutes, votes, video, and other data.
I think we're entering an era, particularly with the diminishment of press, particularly newspapers, economically, where citizens have to step up to the bat. And open data is the clearest way to make it possible for citizens to fill some of that vacuum created by the elimination of media outlets.
All of the champions appeared thrilled to be honored in Washington, but insisted they would be programming with open data regardless of this extraordinary invitation.
Being selected as a champion of change, to me, is a really flattering acknowledgement of work that I've done for years. Being rewarded for that, being recognized for that, feels almost undue. I've been doing all of this because I really enjoy it, because it's fun, because I like having a project, because I like working with friends on building websites, and that I would be rewarded for that. I mean, it's like being invited to the White House for how I play touch football.
For more on this and other stories, read Government Technology magazine.
Global trend, and even the region here is picking up. But it's not only the duty of the government to open up and build up this society. Developers and entrepreneurs like us need to pay more attention to this opportunity, try to use the data already published to come up with innovative ideas for the improving public services. And I think the Smart Government Initiative in UAE is a nice umbrella for this one. The last thing is to focus on making a shift, not a project. So smart government, smart city is not a project that can be finalized in a few months, although we have a phase now of 2 years in UAE, but we're entering a whole new phase, a whole new shift. A shift that needs to tackle issues related to legislation gap, policies, legislation, etc., and also things related to data governance. And also we heard a lot about this in today's opening speech by Usman Sultan. And then there are things related to the culture and mindset, not only on the government side, but also society side. Culture of openness, of collaboration, of doing things together, finding solutions to the common challenges. This one, the international practices or best practices, it has been one important method in doing e-government projects. But we need to not to overlook the issue of the context gap, that a certain solution in London or in New York might not necessarily work in Dubai as it is. So we need to pay attention and invest in looking into the cultural aspects, economic aspects, etc., and how we can fine-tune this model to work in a local environment. And then innovation. It's a whole new domain, open data, and there is we can't talk about advanced country in this domain, but we are all still learning. So we need to innovate and think how can we make this trend better for our countries, for our communities. I'd like to conclude with this example, the UAE brainstorming session conducted in last December, where His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum called the whole population of UAE to participate in a nationwide brainstorming around healthcare and education. 82,000 ideas were submitted in few days, discussed by the committee, and then immediate resolutions were issued to improve healthcare and education. It's not only about the immediate output of the session or of the exercise, but there are also the indirect output, that it spreads the culture of engaging the public in making government business better, in providing better value. Thank you so much.